This review looks at two similar Volvo wheel loaders. Model 30026 is the Volvo 220G, and the real machine weighs around 32 tonnes, and Model 30030 is the Volvo 250G, which is slightly heavier at 35 tonnes. Both versions of the model come in an identical box style. It's Volvo branded and it doesn't have any information about the real machine. Inside the box, the model is held between two clear plastic formers. It's factory sealed, and if you're smart you use a knife to cut it, but if you're not clever you'll try to rip it apart like a deranged kangaroo. Once the two pieces are separated you can lift the model out, and it's fully assembled in the box, so there's no assembly to do, and there's no instructions provided for the model. The models are very similar, so we'll start with the 220G, and underneath the detailing of the axles is quite good, and the tread pattern on the tyres is convincing. The tyres are mounted on wheels which are quite simply modelled. There's no wheel nut detailing, for example. The engine cover has got panels with the grills detailed by use of graphics. There's a chunky exhaust on top, and at the rear the lights are painted, and there's a tiny Volvo badge. Under the cover there's a detailed engine, and it's made up of a number of different plastic parts. The cab has got mirrors and wipers and metal grab rails on the outside, and the interior detail is quite good. A nice touch on the outside is that there are textured anti-slip surfaces and more thin metal handrails. At the front the lights are on plastic supports, but the colour match is very good. However, the connection rivets for the loader arm are certainly a scruffy area of modelling, and the area under the pivot point would have benefited from some hydraulic hoses to fill the void. However, up on top there are some hoses, and they run to the hydraulic ram that controls the bucket tipping. At the front there's a rehandling bucket, and it's a reasonable metal casting. The L250G is more or less the same model with some different graphics at the back, and at the front the loader arm arrangement is different with a heavier construction, and the rock bucket is very different with teeth and a nice grille at the top. This is a CranesEtcTV safety advisory. An operator's visibility may be impaired when driving with the bucket up. Under these circumstances, assistance shall be provided. The first thing to do is to bring the wheel loaders to the CranesEtcTV construction site, and it makes a good looking load on a suitable truck. For speed we'll unload it using the robot crane, and then we can get on with the testing. Certainly there's no problem rolling along in a straight line, and lifting it up there's excellent oscillation on the rear axle. Unfortunately the front axle also oscillates, and it shouldn't, and that means the whole body rocks even on flat ground, so that's not good model engineering. Also not good is that the steering operates through the pivot point, but it's got a very limited range on this model. And it's because the way the riveting has been done there's a clash inside, which means the range of movement is tiny. So let's see if the L250G is any better. Well, it rolls well and the rear oscillating axle works fine, but it has the same problem with the loose front axle. However, what's definitely better on this model is the range of steering, which for some reason is quite a bit better than on the 220G. And at least this one can be posed in something like a realistic angle. Moving on to the bucket and loader arm of the 220G, it certainly raises up to a very good height, and it's realistic compared to the real machine. However, there's another problem with the model engineering here, which is that the bucket's got no tipping angle at all, which is a problem if you wanted to pose it tipping into a truck. So let's give it a real life test into a road dump truck, and it's certainly high enough to be able to reach over the side of the dump truck, but getting the material out of the bucket is a problem, so the operator needs to apply a bit of super lift on the rear axle. So that's the 220G, let's move over to the 250G and see what that's like. Well, it has a different loader arm mechanism, and it's got a different problem, which is that it doesn't go up very high at all. However, on the plus side it does offer something approaching a tipping angle. So again, the model engineering is not quite as good as you'd hope for, but at least with the bucket down it looks okay. So let's repeat the real life loading test with the 250G, and this time the driver of the truck's got a problem because he's being woken up by the bucket bashing against the side. But the CranesEtcTV operators are skilled guys, so by selecting rear axle superlift, the bucket is discharged. However, one very good feature is the rear opening engine cover. It pulls back and can stay tilted, and it works equally well on both versions of the model. They also share the same engine detailing. When you close the engine cover, it snaps shut with a very tight clip. In summary, both of these Motorart models have got good detailing and they look good. But they are a bit let down by some careless work on the model engineering. And that's a pity because otherwise they'd have been very good models. However, if you're happy with the static poses that are possible, then the models are fine.